few different names that Wigmore goes by. Thank you for joining us, Raffi.
Pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
How are you doing?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Good. Okay, so yeah, thank you for joining us, everyone. We thought it would be a good idea to get Raffi on here to just have a chat about what Wigmore is kind of one of the biggest prescribing pharmacies in the industry. And obviously they have a few arms. We thought it would be a good idea to have a chat with Raffi about what's been going on from their point of view since we've all been in lockdown, and to just get a bit of a perspective on what things are likely to be like when we are all back in clinic, in terms of things that they might have to do differently to work with customers and colleagues in the industry and things like that. So, yeah, Raffi, do you want to just start by telling us, like, what has Wigmore been doing? Like, what's changed since we've been in lockdown? What have you guys been? How have you had to adapt the way that you work, or what have you been doing differently?
Sure. Thank you very much again for having me. Pleasure to be able to explain a few things that we've done over these last few months. We've obviously, got two sides of the coin: how we've looked after ourselves and our own teams here, and also how we've tried to help the help the community and our own clients. So from a Wigmore and Wigmore staff perspective, we've tried to sort of keep things as normal as possible. People are still, the teams are still working. Every corner of the business is running as they would. Some of the team is working from home if they can do, but the majority are now all here in the pharmacy and have been. Obviously, by law, we weren't able to close the pharmacy, so we still had to maintain all of that kind of thing. Obviously, there's always support for all of our teams here in terms of being able to drive in. We're looking after everyone's congestion charges. We're making sure that there's no fear of coming into work. We've got PPE for all of our staff, and we're trying to keep morale up as much as possible. The benefits of Zoom and Google Meets and so forth are that you can keep in touch with everyone and just make sure that everyone's doing really well. In terms of the way we've adapted as a company, this is where a bit of technology has come into play, and we've tried to change up the way we do things ourselves. So we've got our sales team and customer services are always available on conversations like what we're having now, in terms of if a client has an issue or a client has a question about a certain brand or product that we supply. We're able to help them out in a quickly organized situation. The pharmacy itself, we have our own, we've updated our rules and policies, sort of 2 in, 3 in at a time, and making sure that everyone's covered in masks and gloves and all that kind of stuff. And in terms of when our clinics and clients are ordering, of course, they were also in lockdown. They weren't able to have patients come into their premises for consultations or for purchasing product. So we offered a drop shipment service for all of our non-injectable ranges, so that we can send their products direct to their clients. So, for instance, skincare regimes aren't stopped and they don't have to be restarted. So we try to do as much as we can. Obviously, we've also got payment plans put into place for some clinics. We realize that it's a small drop in the ocean for some clinics out there that have got rent to pay and staff to pay, but we need to try and do as much as we can to make their lives a bit more manageable.
Yeah, exactly. And how have you sort of been finding your clinic accounts have been coping? Like, have people been keeping in touch with you and letting you know if there's anything that they need that you can help them out with? Or are there a lot of people who you think are worried about their business when we're out of this?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're trying to keep as much information going to them as possible. We still have our monthly newsletters. We still have our social media campaigns that keep them up to speed with what we're able to do for them. If they do have any, issues with, accounts or anything like that, like I said, we've optioned a few payment proposals for people that feel like they might be struggling or feel like an ease can be burdened. a burden can be eased rather on their clinics. In terms of, the general information, Wigmore Medical has always prided itself on customer services, and that department has been here throughout. So any questions, any queries that need to be answered are done. So a little bit slower than normal, perhaps. We've got a bit of a skeleton crew on a rotational basis.
Yeah.
But I think from next week the full teams will be back in, and everything can be done.
And when clinics do reopen, will you guys have to kind of restructure the ways in which you work, or in terms of kind of getting product to customers, supporting customers? Is there anything you're anticipating which will be different to before this all happened in terms of that kind of supply chain with the clinics?
Well, the supply chain is, I don't think it will change too much. It was working pretty well to begin with. We've actually, as we were sort of off live feed, we were talking about the ways that we're able to become more efficient. And during this period, we've had a bit of time to sort of step back rather than being 100 miles an hour the whole time. We've been able to step back and say, how can we make this more efficient? How can we benefit our clients a bit more? How can we internally become a bit more, proactive in terms of making general operations more feasible? And with that, I think we will find, we found more efficient ways to get next day delivery service. We found easier ways to deliver, in the local area quicker. All these kind of aspects, and it might shave, minutes, or it might shave pennies, but it's still something that, on the grand scheme of things, will benefit everyone across the long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess you kind of, the more you start thinking in that mindset, like we were saying earlier, the more you find more things that you can do like that, don't you, to just make everything a bit more efficient? Precisely.
I mean, case in point is our training center. We've got a facility on site that hasn't been used for the best part of 3 months. It's prime realty space and all that kind of stuff. However, we've been able to transfer all of our training into webinars, and be it live interactive webinars or pre-recorded webinars for products that we have. And we're finding that not only are we able to engage with more clients at one time, they're able to go back and forth and have that as a useful piece of information throughout, rather than the one time sitting in a room. Obviously, with hands-on training, you still need to have the facility open, and we hope to have that open come September.
Yeah.
But it's not just our products either. We're working closely with a lot of our suppliers in terms of helping them promote their own webinars. We're able to host them ourselves, speaking with all of our suppliers on a daily basis now, trying to get as much information out there, so that when things do come back to normality, there's not a reset. Not everyone starts from scratch. Everyone's been doing something in the meantime, so that when doors do open, they can hit the ground running.
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of people, I think, have found that they actually prefer learning in this kind of online webinar format a lot of the time, compared to being at like a traditional conference. And we all know what they're like in our industry, or if you're a kind of practical masterclass or something where you can't quite see the stage, or someone's like coughing next to you, or there's a tall person in front of you, or someone like spills a coffee and distracts you. A lot of people have been saying they've really enjoyed that they can engage and focus so much more learning this way. So have you kind of had that similar feedback from people?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can really agree with that. I mean, you might get distracted by the household pet, or something like that now. But apart from that, there are a lot of elements to it that do make it a very feasible way to get learning done. However, I mean, it's funny. It's the weekend of the FACE conference, and that's one of the staples in our industry, and that's something that we'd all be at. And although you can do a lot of learning, I mean, it goes for every conference. Although you can do a lot of learning, online webinars, there is still that little aspect that you do, the interaction whereby, I find that with webinars, they're great for learning. You know, you get straight to the point. There's no pleasantries, if you will, but
Yeah.
it does exactly what it's supposed to do. There is elements of normal interaction that are still missing,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
for all intents and purposes, for a training facility, the webinars have been a huge success for us.
Yeah. So you say you hope to actually have people coming back in for the practical training around September time?
Yeah, we're working towards that. Obviously, we'll have to work alongside guidelines and
Yeah.
you know what's doable, what's not doable. Of course, you know, having a training facility, you know, sterilization and glove wearing and mask wearing has always been, you know,
Yeah.
priority. But you know, there's other aspects now. You know, we might have to, you know, think about having, you know, a cleaning staff, you know, on house. You know, maybe doing it, you know, during the lunch break. You know, giving everything a wipe down and then doing it again after the fact. You know, there's a whole lot of small little details that we need to, that I think that we all, you know, we ourselves are identifying that, you know, can make it for a better and more, you know, more solid experience for everyone.
Yeah, and I think people are being very patient and kind of forgiving at the moment, aren't they? Because we're all working every single day. We're all kind of having to go, okay, what are the guidelines today? What's the latest advice? And everything has kind of been delayed and postponed and changed. So,
well, that's it. I mean, you know, we're extremely grateful to all of our clients and to the aesthetic industry. You know, we all realise that we are in this together, and it, you know, it's a learning process. Some aspects there should have been, you know, we should have been doing this anyway. Some aspects are becoming you know, you're becoming a bit more, like I said, efficient. You know, you're finding easier ways to do things, and just some things are going to become new. You know, that's okay. You know, there are lots of positives that can come out of this one very big negative.
Yeah. And well, speaking of things that have had to kind of, everyone's using the word pivot and adapt online, I wanted to talk to you about EV as well, because so you, for those of you who don't know, because you kind of started, I think perhaps a little bit of work on this before, but so thinking of online consultations, which obviously everyone's been doing at the moment. But also EV is a bit more than that, isn't it? Because you're kind of a bit of like a content platform. There's quite a few elements. So do you want to tell us about that and maybe how you envisage that perhaps helping clinicians going forward with some of the changes that we might have to be adapting to with Corona?
I mean, the concept of EV was something that's sort of been working on for the last 4 or 5 years. It's just another tool to help our own industry. It's everything from a consumer knowledge bank. It's article written, you know, editorial, you know, peer-to-peer reviews, editorial-led articles for the consumer, so they can maybe perhaps find out a bit more information about certain treatments or certain trends in the aesthetic industry. It also gives them a chance to link up with, you know, with clinics that provide these treatments and services to their patients. Now it can be anything from, you know, skincare through to you know, more injectable aesthetics, and the clinic should look at it as a directory with many arms and attachments to it. One of those big things is the virtual consultation. Now, I do know that clinics are doing virtual consultations via Zoom, via Skype, via WhatsApp, and you know, it's enabled us to sort of, you know, even more with more energy, you know, understand that our direction was the correct one, because now it's going to be a case of normal, you know, doing consultation over the phone. Why, you know, they don't have to go to a clinic if they're not based nearby. They can just do it over Zoom or Skype. What we're able to offer is something a bit more secure than that, something that you know, is a bit more, you know, sort of patient, practitioner friendly, and it's the way it's all built in together, so that it allows you know, a free flowing process for each clinic to not only gain more clients, but to have a bit of trust with those clients as well.
So it's kind of virtual consultations, but kind of to the next level.
Exactly. I mean, virtual consultancy is one of the main aspects of it.
Yeah.
But then there's the whole scope where the clinician has another window of opportunity in terms of who looks at their treatments, looks at their pages, and takes it from there. I mean, we're just in phase one. My mind is sort of my mind's already at phase 6 for what it needs to be. But as it stands right now, it's a fantastic platform to gain more clients in a potentially safer environment than you would be on Skype or Zoom, which is which is what's being used right now.
Well, I think anything that's sort of specifically geared towards practitioners, like you say, with all these kinds of platforms like Zoom that we're on now and things, I guess you've got the sort of the data protection side, but also, is there anything on the EV platform that, because I know a lot of people have sort of been saying that it's been tricky using these kind of generic platforms when it comes to actually being able to like properly look at skin and do a proper assessment and all that kind of thing. So is there anything built into the EV version which kind of tailors it even more towards the practitioners and consultations?
Well, much of the same way, EV does offer more transparency and security in terms of the duration of the consultation. Unfortunately, we're only as good as the technology that's provided. So, if the camera quality isn't good, then there might be a few deficiencies. But what you do get with EV is a transcription as well that's covered on both sides. So everyone knows which side of the coin they're lying on. The doctor knows, the practitioner knows what they've advised, what they've said, and then the patient also has a readout as well, exactly of what was said 10 minutes ago or 20 minutes ago.
That's really cool. So does that kind of happens automatically as you're speaking?
As you're speaking, it will happen, and it gets loaded up on your profile a few minutes after that. And then that's saved as part of your patient documentation. And from the patient side, it's just a reference. They then have the choice to go back to it after the fact and say, oh, you mentioned X, Y, Z. Is that something that needs to be a concern or whatever? So I mean, it's also again fully secure. It's got encryption and all that kind of stuff that makes it impenetrable. Unlike for instance Zoom or Skype and all that kind of stuff. It just extra security for both sides.
Yeah. And then so can you link that in with someone, say like skincare prescription and their treatment program? As the clinician, you can kind of have all your notes in one place and
well, precise. I mean, exactly. I mean, I think the idea for now is that you do have that consultation, and you do eventually go to that clinic, and you get prescribed into whatever plan it happens to be, and then from there it's a case of you've now got that relationship with that patient, and so on and so forth. It takes away a bit of the time spent in clinic, and it also gives a bit of security to both sides.
Yeah, cool. So how can people get involved with EV? Like, do you have to be, how related to Wigmore is it? Like, do you have to be a customer of Wigmore to be able to use EV, or?
No, it's not related to Wigmore Medical. It's it's a separate business. It's etrevue.com. You just go there. From a clinician point of view, you just sign up. It's free to sign up. You build your own platform, build your own page, if you will. There's Q&A on there. It can be as large or as small as you like. You've got opportunities to highlight your best products. You can highlight all your products. You can highlight all your treatments. You can pick whichever time slot you'd like for virtual consultations throughout the day. You can have multi-location. All the things that you'd expect from a tech system in this day and age. And then eventually on the back of it, you've got a full clinic CRM system that does all your bookings for you and your patient history, all that kind of stuff, invoicing, everything. So yeah, it's all available. That side will be more sort of phase 1.5, probably around September, October time.
Okay.
But the way it is now is that you're ready to go. You're ready to start doing your video consultations.
Brilliant. Someone's just asked us to repeat the name of the website, and I'm going to type it in. So it's etrevue.co.uk?
Etrevue.com.
Etrevue.com, okay. I'm going to just type that in here. Yeah, I should have said at the beginning, but if anyone else does have any questions, just pop it into the Q&A box at the bottom. Raffi, is that ETREVOUS?
That's correct, yeah.
Cool. Okay, let me do that. Hopefully that's I answered it. Yeah, cool. Okay, cool. I'm gonna just see if anyone else has anything else they want to ask whilst we wait for maybe some more questions to come in. Do you just want to run over, just run through your brands and the companies you work with Wigmore, and maybe just run over like a bit of a structure for everyone if they're not familiar with what Wigmore offers as a pharmacy?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're, as you correctly mentioned, we are an aesthetic provider in the UK. We've been around for, feels like forever. I feel like I've been around here forever. But yeah, so it's a whole host of pretty much all the skincare ranges that you'd like. We supply, toxins and fillers across the board pretty much. And yeah, it's evolved. We used to run conferences. We still run open days. We do training seminars. I mentioned we've got our own facility. It's used probably about 250 times a year for our own courses or for not. We've got a few exclusives that we work with, like Zero Skin Health, Glow and Color Science, Basics UK, which is a laser brand. And that's kind of where we are in the UK. We were able to support and supply UK and Ireland, next day delivery or same day if you're just around the corner. We're based on Harley Street. I'm sure if you guys know Harley Street, you know about us. And yeah, we're just there ready to help.
I've spoken to quite a few practitioners throughout this who use Zeo in clinic, and they've all said that their online skincare sales have just gone through the roof during lockdown. Like, I think it's been so popular with, I think people have been doing some really good work on their socials and things, like promoting the importance of keeping up your skincare regime and all that kind of stuff. But people have, especially with Zeo, actually, people have said their online skincare has just gone mad.
Well, this is it. I mean, the thing with Zeo, it's been built around physician based, so it's only available for clinics to advise on how it's used, and it's one of those brands that aren't really available online. In terms of I'll just go to the Zeo website and buy what I like. There's a few, so it's built around the engagement of the clinics that we trained over the years and that we work with. And that's basically one of our strong points. I think our drop shipment service has not only been a success, probably something that we might even continue after the fact, just because it's offering such a flexibility to clinics. Especially some of the guys that perhaps don't want to order and have a bulk stock of products sat there, especially when they come back, when they've got other more important things to deal with. I guess we just won't know the extent on how most of the clinics are going to come back with until they do all come back. And as I sort of said, everyone's sort of touting July 4th as or July 6th, pardon me, the sort of when things are able to open up again. But these clinics should open up when they feel comfortable, and they should make sure they've got everything in house and ready for when they feel comfortable to start letting clients back in. We're here to help them out as much as possible. If they've got any questions, they can always send them in.
Yeah, because I imagine some people are actually starting to feel quite pressured almost now because there is so much talk about kind of gearing back up again to reopen on the 4th, but you absolutely don't have to if you don't feel like you're ready or prepared, or you might have PPE on order, but until that actually comes in, people shouldn't be opening.
Well, exactly. I mean, everyone's got an email now from someone offering PPE, right?
Yeah.
So that's the way it is these days. Wigmore Medical have got their own PPE, which they're able to send out with products as and when people need. Everyone else does as well. You just got to feel with what's right. There's a great sort of fraternity amongst the aesthetic team. Consulting room have done a great job in putting together all their resources and all what they can so that clinics are able to open up, and feel confident that they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And everyone should sort of take advantage of what's available out there from ourselves and from consulting and whoever else is out there.
Yeah.
Offering sage advice into opening up, and also, as you say, feeling comfortable with opening up. Not everyone's comfortable now, not queuing up and not spending, and they're still practicing, severe social distancing, which is great, but they might not be ready to open their own doors yet, and that's not something that should be forced upon, and it shouldn't be something that has a negative effect. For that particular clinic. Just because you don't open doesn't mean that you're not ready to, or you're not or you're not towing the line. It's a choice that's been made, and I'm not sure how many of our own clients decided to spend more time with the NHS, or perhaps maybe shaving off a day or two off their private business to go back. We just don't know yet.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's about gauging demand from patients and clients as well, isn't it? Because I think it may be that a lot of patients aren't quite ready to be coming in yet. So in that sort of downtime, then people might decide to carry on doing a couple of days with the NHS if they have been doing it, or sticking to other things they've been doing during this time. We've just got to wait and see, haven't we? I guess. Cool. Well, unless there's anything else you wanted to talk about, Raffi, I think we've covered everything I wanted to ask you about.
Sure. I mean, from our side, it's always great to find out, what you guys are doing. I can be the interviewer now. How's things going with yourselves? When do you guys think conferences will be back? When do you guys think that more interactive?
We are aiming for, so AM North was supposed to be in June. So we are aiming, we've now moved AM North to November. I should know the date. I'm going to just say the date because that's a good opportunity to let people know. So we're looking at 14th of November at Event City in Manchester. So it's going to be a one-day show instead of the 2 days that it was going to be in June. We're not back in the office yet. We're all our team's still working from home. But we're hoping that November time we can be looking at doing shows again. But it's the same thing. We're going to have to play it by ear, because obviously if we do it, we want to do it in a safe way as possible. And there's so much to think about in terms of like in seminars and conference rooms, having, where we'd normally have quite a lot of people packed in together, spacing it out. And then, not just visitors, but also our exhibitors at the show. They need to feel comfortable. They need to be able to do what they need to do with perhaps limited numbers of team members. So we're hoping that we'll be able to start doing shows again in around November time. But in the meantime, we've also, like we were saying earlier, have been wanting to do things like webinars as well, and finding new ways to connect with readers and the industry online. So we've started doing so many of these, which has been amazing. So I almost, I feel like there are ways around most things that you would normally do in person. So I guess we'll just have to keep finding and using those ways.
I just don't know what we're going to do with all of our office space that we have.
I know. I mean, in a way, I would like to be back in the office, mainly because I just miss my colleagues. And it's not the same having that interaction just over camera. But I mean, we're just kind of really gonna react to when clinics can start opening. That's kind of, I think, when we'll think the industry is getting back to normal. And just in the meantime, help out as much as we can and keep providing info and advice and guidelines and stuff from other sources, really.
Yeah.
But yeah,
living in that boat. It's interesting times.
Yeah, very interesting times. Cool. Well, thank you, Raffi. That was really interesting. It's lovely to have a chat. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you want to go and have a look at UV, I typed the website address in there. And we will also, because this is streaming to Facebook as well, so we'll go in and just pop down Wigmore's details if anyone wants to get in touch. So yeah, I think that's it. Thanks again, Raffi, and thank you everyone for joining us.
No, thank you very much. I hope it was interesting. I mean,
yeah, it was great.
It's the supplier side. It's not as fun as probably getting a.
Well, no, but it's a massive part of the industry, isn't it? And everything kind of links in together. So it's interesting to hear from the supplier side, actually, how things are different. Cool. Okay. Well, we will see you all next week for our coffee morning. And yeah, Raffi, thank you very much. Have a lovely day.
Thank you very much, and have a nice weekend, everyone.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.